me. So my name is Robin Robinson, and I'm your Recorder of Deeds of Bucks County. I'm newly elected as of November 2017, so I started January 1st, 2018. And just like in life, we don't know what we don't know. And in the Recorder of Deeds office, I didn't know what I didn't know till I got there. Even though I have a strong background of management skills, I sold real estate, I worked for a title company, and I was working in the courthouse for 10 years for the county, one of the county commissioners. So I really understood the courthouse, and I hired a first deputy from Montgomery County that was in the Recorder of Deeds office, she lives in Bucks, and she knew what goes on in the Recorder of Deeds office. So together we hit the ground running. So in April of last year, I went to a meeting where I met a lot of other Recorder of Deeds from all over the state. And I met this lovely woman from Blair County. Her name is Mary Ann. And she told me about her old deed books and how she was using record improvement money to fix them. So I came home and I said to my staff, where are our old deed books? Do we have old deed books? And they took me out to the warehouse, and this is what I saw. So these are our history deed books from 1684, yes, with William Penn's name in it, yes, with all these properties all over this county. This is what they look like, 700 deed books. So the first thing that went through my mind is, like I said, we don't know what we don't know, was, oh no, this is the history of our county laying on the floor in a warehouse with no air conditioning, no heat, moldy, bugs, you name it, everything. I thought, this is a disgrace. And then I thought, oh no, now this is my responsibility. So this is my responsibility. And I couldn't leave it like this. So I guess I'm doing my own thing. So Marianne had told me about the company she was using to fix her books. It's called Co-File in Vermont. And I called Co-File, and long story short, I was able to piggyback onto a contract from another city in Essex, New York. And it's very exciting because I have this record improvement money. I didn't have to go out for an RFP, if you all know what that is. And I could just piggyback and just start getting these books taken care of. I went up and I visited Vermont. This is in Vermont. These are all the books you saw in the first picture. They've been taken to Vermont, organized, but you can see what the pages look like. And string and tape are paper's big enemies. I didn't know that. So taping a rip in a book is really, really a no-no. So these poor books and pages, this is what they looked like. So the preservation started. Look how much better they look already. They were organized and put together, and wait till you see what we did. So first, the history of paper. I didn't know this either. Paper was really fair to good from 1624 to 1850. 1850 to 1994, it was made of wood pulp, and it just crumbles in your hand. And now, then, 1994 until today, things are much, much better with paper. If you took a piece of paper and you crumpled it up, it wouldn't fall apart. So it's really, really interesting. Back in the old days, ragmen would sell the rags to the different, paper mills, and they would make paper out of rags. So some of our books are blue and gray paper from ragmen. So here's our books. Back in the day, they decided they were going to put all these books on microfilm. So they guillotined them, they cut them up. And so every book, and this is what they look like, the bindings. I saved some of these bindings just to show people. And this is the linen bindings that came off one book. And I think that is two. I also have rolled balls of Scotch tape. I went to Vermont. It was gorgeous. It was like being in a huge dental office, and all these people had these beautiful little tools that they scrape the tape off, and you'll see, here we go, scraping the tape. This is how they would use like this special solution in this special little brush to get the tape off. Tape is just a huge enemy of the books. All these pages were put into a water bath and bathed in water. And this is the little page in the bath. And then after the bath, they would hang them up on fish lines. You're going to see that in a minute. This is more mending. Some of these books, I'm going to tell you, these books cost, the most expensive one to fix was $13,000. I do not have all these books fixed yet, but we're getting there. So this is paste. residual paste that they take off with like this spatula looking thing, scraping it off. And here we are drying the pages. These are Bucks County deed books being dried on the fish line. And the more fragile pages would be just dried flat. And then a solvent bath. They go in, and you can see how some of them, the pages are ripped and whatnot. They used a Japanese linen to repair the pages. And you'll see that in a minute. Just some more removing of the Scotch tape and the residue. This is just unbelievable. This is tape removed from one book. I find this fascinating. And the deacidification process, and this is a big, I don't know what they call it, piece of equipment that they put on the pages to keep them flat. And caulking, this is the Japanese linen, and this little tool is like a heating iron. So they heat it onto the pages. And the other picture, they're trimming the pages to make them, you know, look pretty. More mending. These are our index books. And then after it's been completed, and I'm going to ask Suzanne if you could hold up the book, and this is one of our books. All the pages are put in these polyester archivable sleeves. So these books and pages are going to last for 500 years. And it's just absolutely stunning. We have books back to 1684. I may have said that. This one we think is 1772. I brought this one because it's one of the lighter weight books. They're very large and very heavy, like 22 pounds a piece. This is what one of the original covers looks like. And I did save some of them just to have on display in the department. And the final product. So we don't have all the books fixed yet. We have about 220 of them done and back because, like I told you, it's very expensive. And you're going to ask me soon, how am I going to pay for that? Here again is the paper. And like I said, we expect these to last hopefully 500 years. So that's my plan. Maybe won't see it, but that's my plan. So storage for the new books. I know you're thinking, what are you going to do with those books? You're not going to put them back on the floor in the warehouse. No. So in our administration building where I work, we are redoing the whole building, and the sheriff's department was on the bottom level, and they moved to the new Justice Center. So they're giving us storage in that facility for 1,400 volumes, because our 700 books are turning into 1,400 volumes because they're so thick with the archivable sleeves and whatnot. So they're all going to be right there in the building. So if you ever come in legally, if you came in and said, I need to see book 38, I would have to produce that book for you. And in the old days, you know, a year ago, we'd have to run down to the warehouse and search through all those books. But now they're going to be in our office, you know, in the building. So that's going to be absolutely great. How am I going to pay for this? Well, one way is with the record improvement money. So every time you all sell something and you send it to the Recorder of Deeds office to have it recorded, we charge you a $5 record improvement fee. This is state law. And state law says that we can only use that money to improve the record. So we have some of that money that we're using. We had a lot of that money, but I'll just tell you the honest truth. We had $900,000 of record improvement money that was left over from the big explosion in 2006. Remember when we had a ton of mortgages where, you know, one house may have 3 or 4 mortgages on it. We had $900,000, and a week before I took office, the old Recorder of Deeds gave it to the county, just gave it away. So we would have had enough money to fix all these books, but we don't now. So the other thing I'm doing is I applied for 3 grants. I'm still looking for grants. If anyone hears of anything, we apply for grants. The other thing I'm doing is an Adopt a Book program. The New England cities who have lots of old books like we do, this is what they do. I got the idea from them. So I started the Adopt a Book program, and anyone can donate anything you want. I've had donations of $10, and Falls Township gave us $5,000. Anyone gives us a lot of money, their name goes in one of these books. And you'll see in a minute that this book we have here tonight is one of those books. So this is really hysterical. Book 1 and 2. Book 1 and 2, the very first deed books of the county. I got them fixed. I thought they were gorgeous. I went down to David's library to meet with them because I'm doing a book tour. I'm going all through the county with the books. So David's library, I took them in, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with David's library, but they're in Washington's Crossing, and they're really experts on history. So I'm sitting there and I'm showing her book 1, and she says to me, Robin, I hate to tell you this, but this is not an original deed book. Oh, I couldn't believe it. You mean I'm spending all this money and I'm fixing books that aren't original? Well, book 1 and book 2, come to find out, back in the day, they were dilapidated. And it says here, this is from book 1. And this is the Recorder of Deeds. Goes on to say that book 1 and 2 were dilapidated, worn out, and this is an exact copy of the book. So just like under the law, I'm supposed to maintain the record of the county. So were they way back in the day. And this is 1890 to 1902. They copied deed books 1 and 2. And I don't know what happened to the old ones. They probably got thrown away. So one day in November, my staff went to a genealogy meeting in Del Valle, at Del Valle University. And one of my staff members called me up and said, Robin, you're not going to believe this. A fellow came by here just now, and he says he has our deed book at home, one just like this. Are you kidding me? So he took a picture and he texted it to us, and oh my God, he had our book. I thought, oh my God, I got to get this book from this guy. So my lawyer, we have a lawyer in the office, said, no, you got to be careful. I said, no, I'm getting him in here. So the guy came in, and I was going to tackle him to keep that book. There was no way he was leaving, that office with that book. So he comes in with the book. He puts it down. It's half the size of our book. It turned out to be a ledger from a general store in Warrington. Very interesting, but not a deed book. So I'm still looking. If any of you come across deed book 1 or 2, like in an old barn sale or on eBay, we're searching for it. I think it's gone. But I do treasure these new book 1 and 2. They're really, to me, special because it just shows the Recorder of Deeds trying to maintain the record. This is, this is the first Recorder of Deeds. So I just thought that was interesting. Okay, so I was back at another Recorder of Deeds meeting this past summer. I mean, a lot's happened to me in 1 year. I met another Recorder of Deeds from Washington County, and she started telling me about her slave information in her deed books. I came home and I said to the staff, do we have slave information? And they looked at me and they started looking, and sure enough, we do. We have miscellaneous books, and it's just unbelievably interesting. It seems that Quakers had bought slaves before the Civil War and then set them free on the same day, and they would record them in our miscellaneous books. So we have all these records of our slaves, our Bucks County slaves, in my books. And right now I have fixed 4 miscellaneous books. I have one of them at Pearl Buck House right now for the year. Pearl Buck House is doing a special from Africa to Bucks County, and one of our books is there with a lot of interesting information. It's just fascinating. Every municipality in this county had slaves except for Sellersville. We can't find anyone from Sellersville. Sellersville was really the headquarters of the Quakers here. So that's exciting. This is Lucille Trench, and this book that I brought tonight is dedicated to Lucille. Lucille Trench was the first woman Recorder of Deeds. I'm the second. She went on to become the county commissioner. I'm just a mom. But anyway, she was really a special woman and loved the deed books, and that's just a wonderful picture of her. And here we do a lot of genealogy in our office. People come in. People are hired to even go ahead and research properties and houses for different people. And we have so much history in this county, and so many celebrities have lived here, and artists and writers, and it's just incredible. So this is my staff showing a group. We have a group coming in tomorrow night from Bucks County Community College. And then here's my book tour. So this is where we're going to be. We're going to take lots of books, and we're very excited about our tour. We're going to be right here at the Mercer Museum June 27th with the genealogy group. They're going to give a presentation, and I'm going to talk about the books. Okay, this is what you've really been waiting for. So I've done a lot in the office, I told you. One of the first things when I came in, I had just bought a condo myself, and the title company had warned me about the scam, about I'm going to get a card in the mail for $89.95. They'll give me an original deed. And I'm sure you all have experienced that. So, like, what can we do besides telling people? Because I was told and I got it. I mean, I knew, but people are still buying them. I know it for a fact because we charge, when people go on our system, we charge for copies. And I don't know if you're aware of that, if any of you go on our Landex system and print out deeds and print out things. So we charge for that. So how can we stop that scam? Well, and if you have any ideas, please let me know. But what we've done is now you cannot make a copy at home without it saying copy on it. We've watermarked it. So I'm hoping that will stop people trying to sell original deeds. If you want a deed without the word copy on it, you need to come and see Suzanne. And, we can do that. So that's how I've tried to stop that scam. Any ideas, I'm open for that. The other thing is, I used to work for Commissioner Marseglia, and she called me up one day and she said, Robin, I saw on television for $9.95, a month, a person can get their deed protected. And that didn't make sense to me. I said, well, how is that happening? How can that company do that? Can a company really do that, Suzanne? I don't know how they can get into, I don't know. So I said, what can I do to stop that? So I called Landex, my company, and I said, I want to have something. What can I do to protect my citizens, my constituents of Bucks County? And so they wrote this program for us, and we're the first ones at Landex to roll this program out. So I paid for it with that record improvement money, so it is free to everybody to sign up. And what it does is, it's very easy to sign up because I can do it. So that's how I tested it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. So I have a link, and Suzanne will pass out my cards, and my link is on the back of my cards, or it's on our website. And you go to the link, and it asks for 5 names. You don't have to put 5 names. You can put up to 5 names. I put Robin Robinson, Robin M. Robinson, Robin Marie Robinson. I went wild with my name. I could have put my name and my kids' names, but I can do 5 names to 1 email and or cell phone. So you can sign up with your email address or your cell phone or both. So I put in my name, I put in my email address, and if anybody records anything in my name, I'll get a bing, I'll get an email alert. So that's what I'm doing. I can't think of anything else to do. It's really, really protecting, our name identification. And I gave you an article there about stealing the houses and the deeds in Philadelphia. We have not had this problem in Bucks yet at all. We don't have that kind of situation with a lot of empty houses. But I want you to know that from my end, we're working on it. We're watching for it. And we have almost 600 people have signed up for our fraud alert system. And I think that, I want more. We've only just put it in January. But Landex seems to think that that's great, a lot of people. But we have 626,000 people live in Bucks County. But anyway, we've had 6 pings, Suzanne. So we've had 6 pings, and were they all legit, or were?
Suzanne, please use the microphone.
So can you answer that again, Suzanne?
Yes, the pings were actually legit. That wasn't actual fraud. It was just someone checking to see if the system worked, and it does.
So any questions about that? Yes.
Use the microphone, Gary. You must know this by now, Gary.
Yeah, Gary, come on.
So my doctor's office has 3 Gary Millers in it. So if you go across the whole county, who knows how many there are? How do you address exact same names?
Well, if Gary Miller, you're signed up. If Gary Miller down the street, he records something, you'll probably get a ping. I'm right, Suzanne? Suzanne's going to answer this.
That's also why we give you 5 different names to put in. So you can do just G. I'm sorry, I don't even remember.
Gary Miller.
Gary Miller, just G Miller. Or if you have a middle initial, put your middle initial in, spell your middle name out. So there's 5 different ways for you to put your name in So it kind of goes right to you and not your neighbor down the street.
Your system is going to ping any one of those 5 names, not a combination of all those 5 names, correct?
Depends on how the deed or mortgage or whatever is entered in, how you sign the mortgage or the deed. So.
All right. Now, I put houses in trust.
Okay.
So can I do the same thing with the name of the trust?
Yes, you can.
And companies too, right, Suzanne?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So tell us how the scammers scam.
How the scammers scam, like when somebody dies and the house is empty and they go get the deed. Is that what you mean?
Well, you told us about the people that will sell you something for $9 or whatever it was. Well,
how
let's
I
back
think
up.
they're doing it, I think they're sitting at home or somewhere, and all our information is public, so they know who has purchased new homes. They're looking at that list every day. Wouldn't you agree, Suzanne? And they are contacting them, and if they send the card back, then they print the deed from their home computer and send it. But now I have it watermarked where it says copy on it, so I'm trying to cut into that. So I don't know how they can sell an original deed anymore without coming into our office, and we haven't been able to catch them, right? I mean, I'm looking for them when I'm suspicious of somebody there, because we have a whole public section. I'm sure most of you know that, right? Where searchers come and they can print things out and they can work right there in our office. I watch them, and I've approached several people and asked them who they're working for. And one woman told me she didn't know. I suspect her still, Suzanne. I do. But I'm trying to stop it. And if you guys have any ideas how I can stop it, but I thought putting a watermark on there that says copy is one way to stop that. This little fraud alert system, I think it's really great for identity theft. If you have a lien, if you're going to put a lien on a property, a mechanic's lien, where the painter didn't get paid and he goes and he puts a lien on, that is done in the pathonetary's office. And I've talked to her, and she insists that the people get served, they get told that, there's no scamming going on. I still have a problem with it, and I would like her to do the same thing that I'm doing, but she's insisting that everything's okay in the pathonetary's office. But this is the best I can do in the Recorder of Deeds office. Right, Suzanne? Can you think of anything else we can do to stop scamming and fraud?
So I know we have at least one, maybe 2 attorneys in the room. Beth, why don't you grab the mic and tell us your experience with scammers?
So what happens in places like Philadelphia, as I'm sure you're aware, but I'll just talk for the group so they know, because this is the question that you asked, is someone, like in this article, someone will go to the Recorder of Deeds office. So you have Joe Smith owns a piece of property, and Larry Smith goes to the Recorder of Deeds office and records a deed from Joe Smith to Larry Smith, and signs supposedly Joe Smith's name. And that happens all the time in Philadelphia. They just fraudulently draft a document and record it. And no one in Philadelphia, it used to be in Philadelphia, it could take 6 months to 9 months to record a deed before the electronic recording. And so these deeds would sit in the office for months and months, and people would hand record them. And nobody was checking that actually Joe Smith signed this thing, and it would just get recorded. Well, now you have a fraudulent deed, and this person, Larry Smith, goes and resells the property. And nobody knows that that's a fraudulent deed unless somebody stands up and says, hey, that's my property, and you did this fraudulently. And also mortgages can be recorded fraudulently in the Recorder of Deeds office. Somebody just records a fraudulent mortgage and then tries to foreclose on that fraudulent mortgage. So they record a mortgage, and then they go and they file a foreclosure action, and they foreclose on a mortgage that was fraudulent. And if no one stands up and says, hey, that's wrong, for example, it's a family that had somebody die and nobody, if nobody's vigilant, these things can happen. And those are some of the types of things that can happen.
What does the title company, when the title company does a title search?
The problem is there's no title, these things only happen when there's no title insurance. Okay. I mean, I guess it could happen if there were title insurance and nobody went and made a complaint to their insurer, but oftentimes there's a whole segment of society that transfer properties without getting title insurance, okay, and without doing searches, and so that's when these things tend to happen, and if you have a property that's passed down from person to person in a family and nobody ever recorded deeds, they just, the new generation moved into the property, it's kind of easier to then start recording fraudulent deeds. So these are the kinds of things that happen. And, unless somebody goes back and takes the time, unless somebody stands up and says, hey, that's wrong. I have clients that call me and say, I have this property in Philadelphia, and all of a sudden, I got word that somebody recorded a deed, that, my mortgage company happened to look and they found out that somebody recorded a deed. Now what do I do? And you got to stand up and either bring a case that shows that this was fraudulent, or if you have title insurance, go against the title and, make a claim to the title insurance company. But unfortunately, that's what happens. So that's, and I do sometimes quiet title actions when it's, kind of further back. Sometimes you have to bring a quiet title action to show that there was no good reason why these transfers are in the record of this particular property. And it's not so easy sometimes.
So Robin, how does your office catch somebody filing a fraudulent deed that looks perfectly legitimate to your inspection?
Okay, Suzanne, pick up the microphone.
Well, unfortunately, fortunately in Bucks County, we don't have that issue. We haven't come across any. Yes. But I mean,
Why is that true in Bucks County?
Because people in Philly don't really pay attention.
Microphone, please. Bill,
You
get
mean the
her.
recorder of deeds
Bill,
office?
get her shirt, please.
I think the people in the office, in the recorder of deeds office, don't pay attention. They're so busy, and there's so many transfers, and there's so many properties. And again, remember, there was a time in Philadelphia where literally it could take almost a year to record a deed. And a lot of this was happening back then. Because again, you had people all day long just recording because they had stacks of documents that needed to be recorded. Therefore, I mean, one of the things that you're supposed to do is look to see that the person who signed this thing, that it was notarized, for example, and that it was the notary had a stamp that was, a stamp that looked legitimate. I mean, when you're just recording over and over and over again, and you're doing it every day, all day long, you're not looking for that stuff. You're just doing it as fast as you can. I don't think you have that kind of issue. First of all, Bucks County never had a backlog like Philadelphia did.
We had a backlog in the day.
back in 2005, 2003 to 2006, 7, yes, we were very busy, but we do not have that now.
Yeah.
Right, and Philadelphia doesn't either because it's you can do these things
80%
electronically.
of our recording is electronic.
And we're down, I know you all said you were slow. The whole state is down. We were down in recordings 9.2% last year. For this year, already we're down over 11%, and that's just for 2 months. So that means the real estate business is down, and refinancing is down, and everything's down.
Has anybody in the room had experience with a fraudulent deed?
It's funny because the one they wrote about in the Philadelphia Inquirer, I don't know if you saw the article on that Sunday, the person notarizing the deed was Ed Goodconnect. Well, that's the old recorder of deeds, like not the last one, but the one before that. And it was a fraud. It wasn't his signature. He wasn't a notary. And so, they're using, names from the past here in Bucks County. But we really don't have a problem. And Montgomery County, we know, has had one issue of this. And that's all we know about. But I'm trying to prevent things. And this is the best that I could come up with. And if anyone has any ideas, I'm open for it, because Suzanne will tell you that we'll make it happen.
Robin, just a quick question about when somebody does this, and Bethany, you might be able to answer this, I don't know.
Probably.
When somebody does this, does anybody, other than the actual homeowner or whoever owns the property, go after and, obviously they're trying to get the record changed and corrected or deleted or whatever needs to be done, but does anybody pursue the person who did it in a criminal kind of way?
It can happen, but what has to happen is the criminal prosecutor, has to want to do something about it. And in the places where this, like in Philadelphia, my guess is that the prosecutors, it depends on the situation, how much money is involved, or whatever. A lot of times it's kind of like, yeah, I've seen that before. If you really pushed it, you probably could get somebody to do it. I think the people that are involved in these things are so happy when they get the property back that they may not think to, pursue it. And you'd have to get the prosecutor interested, and prosecutors tend to want to do things that are big and sexy, unfortunately. So
But
I think
if anything happened in Bucks County, to our knowledge, I'd call the DA immediately, because that's what I would do.
Has anything ever happened?
No. And
There's
Suzanne will tell you, Suzanne's been in the office how many years, Suzanne?
There's never been a fraudulent deed claim?
Not
Ever?
People say that lots of times that deeds are fraudulent, but we do send them to the DA, but nothing ever comes of it. They're just probably not happy with how the deed was transferred, a family issue of some sort. I've been in the office for 16 years, and I haven't come across anything that was actually fraudulent.
So let's sell a lot of property in Bucks County. What do you say?
I can just tell you that I had a situation in Philadelphia recently where I had a client who came to me and said that she had someone that wanted to sell 2 properties to her. And after a period of investigation, it turned out that this person who wanted to sell these 2 properties to her, they had filed fraudulent deeds. And we could tell because of the signatures that were on the deeds. And here it turned out that this person was just got wind of the fact that these properties were abandoned and went and filed fraudulent deeds to himself years prior, and was kind of like holding on to them till sometime in the future. And when she found this out, she just said, all right, I'm not going to buy those properties. But this guy was actively trying to sell properties that he clearly, based on what I could tell, had fraudulently recorded these deeds to himself. So it still happens.
And Beth, isn't it mostly when the properties are vacant?
It is.
And that's the thing. We don't have this issue
In
Bucks
Philadelphia,
County.
you have lots of vacant properties, and you have lots of vacant properties. You have people that die that have no family members. You have people that are, as I say, tend not to pay attention to properties that they inherited because they're not worth a lot of money. Okay? or they weren't when they inherited them, and maybe they are now. But that's kind of when these things happen.
So I, as a lender, I do a lot of closings, and there's only one title agent who asks everybody in the room to sign a sheet of paper. Basically, it's a list of all the people who attended the closing, and the signatures on that sheet of paper match the deeds and all the other documents. I don't know what he does with that attendance list, but that would be evidence of a signature associated with a deed and not somebody else's signature. I don't know if that's something that can be recorded in the deed in your office, but that's something there's only one title agent that I know that asks for that. I think it should be done by everybody, frankly. Anyway, Bill, did you want to say something?
Yeah, once that fraudulent deed's recorded and that goes out there, wouldn't that go back to the city or the governing body, and then they start looking for taxes and try and track this guy down?
Right. So how many people again?
Microphone.
It's Philadelphia. People in Philadelphia are not paying taxes. There's a lot of people not paying taxes in Philadelphia.
How many, Beth?
and so that's why again it happens in those places, because you're right. Now I will tell you, there are some people that start paying the taxes just to encourage the fact that these deeds are good deeds. But there are also people that don't pay the taxes.
It's cheap insurance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
This is just what I was already talked about the,
Mike?
the other scams.
I want to throw a curveball here.
Get ready, Suzanne.
I'm amazed at how smart these people are. I don't have the guile to do this kind of thing. I wish I did.
But you're learning.
That's why I'm here, Don. You know that. The thing I was going to ask, a lot of these people are looking for properties, and they get properties in auctions. Not necessarily sheriff sales, but all kinds of auctions. And as a lender, we've seen people who borrow from us have a tendency to want to go with the cheapest out-of-state title agent in the world. And it seems that there's the opportunity for all kinds of problems because, in a very simple sense, I'm not saying it happens here, they don't know Doylestown Borough from Township of Doylestown, which is not your problem because you do. But in other places, it gets a lot more complicated. And I'm wondering, what kind of problem is this sort of thing? We've been trying to encourage people to get local title agents, particularly when they buy things at auction.
That's interesting, Mike. I never, in all of our lending deals, we never accept title agents that are outside of the area.
Oh, yeah, well,
It's never come up.
We try to tell people, here's 3 or 4 agents we know are really good companies, but $1,000 speaks a lot more, particularly, no offense to anybody, flippers, who want to drive price down as much as possible, which I understand.
Yeah.
So they're willing to take some guy who's located out of town with a briefcase.
Yeah, I'm distressed if they don't use 1 or 2 of our title agents. The people that we know are reliable.
Yeah, right. It's a money thing, and they don't understand the long-term problems.
Yeah. Microphone. That's my job.
I would tell you, you have a lender's policy, okay? And if you're going to get a lender's policy with a title company that you are not secure, you're not so sure that title company is such a good title. If you were my client, I would say don't you dare allow them to go to a title company that you don't feel is going to be able to give you proper insurance, because that is your life, blood. If you don't have the right insurance on your loan, you're in trouble.
Is that a CPL? Is that the CPL? Is that what you're talking about? The CPL?
It's the title, there's a lender's policy for title insurance.
I think, is that the CPL? Is that the same thing? Yeah, certified, I forgot what it is. Yeah, that's right.
A couple of years ago, we had an experience with title policy. I always thought A title policy was, easy money and was kind of a ripoff until I needed it. One day, a tenant called me up and said, "Hey, there's a foreclosure notice on the door of an apartment building." I had no idea what they were talking about. 10 years before we bought the apartment building, the title company missed a seller second, and they were paying it for many years, and then they defaulted on it. I got myself over to that safety deposit box at that bank, and I rooted through there, and I found the original policy, a owner's policy. If you have an owner's policy, that title company is obligated to represent you. If you had a lender policy, they aren't going to do anything to help you until it goes to foreclosure and the lender shows up asking to have it cleared. Meanwhile, you're out of luck. Ever since then, and back then I had no idea, I just did what was recommended, which was an owner's policy. Every time we've done anything, I always pay the extra for the owner's policy, because you've got nothing if you don't have it. The lender's covered, but you as the property owner, they aren't going to do a thing to help you. And in this particular case, it was $15,000. And I had to produce every single document. I had to find the original HUD, which I had with the title policy. I had to show them the policy. And I had to jump through all the hoops. And it took them about 3 months to clear it up, but they cleared it up. If we didn't have that policy, we may have had to fork out 15 grand.
What happened
10
to
years later, and I'm glad I'm anal retentive about keeping paperwork and records.
What happened to in those 3 months? You said there was a notice on your door for foreclosure?
There was a notice on the apartment door, yeah.
Yeah, and then were you able to stay it for 3 months?
Oh, as soon as I saw it, I went and got the policy, contacted the lender, sent them the policy. They communicated with the original title company. Those two worked it out. I just had to keep chasing them down. And it got paid.
Interesting. As the recorder of deeds, what stories have you experienced that you can share with us?
Don, I've only been the recorder of deeds for 13 months. So, I'm just coming into this, and I've shared my stories that the commissioner told me about this, and I jumped on it right away. And Suzanne might have stories, but again, we're Bucks County, and we don't have these issues. As you see my new friend shaking her head, yes. We don't have these issues, and I'm trying to prevent us from having these issues. And I'm open to any ideas. But in 13 months, I think I've done a lot, Don. I'm fixing and saving the history of the county. I'm trying to take care of 2 scam issues, and I really need all of you to like me on Facebook. I cannot believe how few likes and followers I have. I have more in my personal life. Thank you so much. And I've also, in your little packet, this is my little newsletter, and I talk about what's going on. And the first article is about the fraud alert system. So Don said he'd give me your emails. I hope you don't mind. I only put it out every couple months, and if you want to be off, you can just tell me you want to be off. But I always do some interesting things, because as an office, we support Big Brothers Big Sisters. We support the veterans, the Wreaths Across America. We do a lot for the community. I just don't want to be an office that just comes to work and records deeds and go home. We work together to try to better Bucks County too. So I like to share that. Is that okay, Don, or are you going to drill me some more on this?
Yes, we have more questions.
Okay, I wanted to show the picture of my office. There's some of
There
my
you go.
employees. Yes.
Great staff. Hold on, let me get your mic on, please. You're number 5. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say about the one problem that you mentioned of people getting something in the mail saying if you pay $89, you can have a copy of your deed. It used to be, now our title company, the title company I work with a lot, used to always sort of warn people before they left, you're going to get this junk in the mail. It's going to say, pay $89 for a deed. Don't do it because you're going to get your deed. It's going to take a few weeks, but you are going to get a copy of it. So I just wonder if it might be a good idea just to educate more title companies, just to warn people at the closing table.
Yes, and I think, like you said, they do. and they're still falling for it.
Right. Right. Because
And I only know because
I've gotten them in the mail too.
Yeah, and
do
I
look
only
official.
know because of how many copies we sell. We sell a lot of copies. But I'm
Right.
hoping, I just put in this watermark, 2 months ago? It hasn't been that long. So we're trying to figure out if this is going to work or if the people are coming in our office and we're making them original copies ourselves.
Right.
So, but any other ideas, I will remind the title companies.
Microphone.
Yeah, Beth, you should know this by now about the microphone. Beth needs her own microphone.
You
John.
should put on your website, scan.
We have it.
You have it?
Oh, yeah, Facebook, everything. Are you kidding? I
Yeah.
even did a Comcast Newsmakers about the fraud alert system, and I'm going back on this week to
Right.
talk about the other scam in the watermark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm out there. I go to groups every week, and this is what I talk about. Of course, the history of the county, too. That seems to be my big sell.
I have a follow-up question for Tom. So being a newer investor, we make sure we get local title insurance and we actually read the title to the best of our ability. I'm just concerned that you mentioned to make sure that you have an owner's policy. I would have assumed that I'm getting that. So what else is there? So I feel like I need to make sure I'm getting the right thing now.
There's a lender policy, which is the least expensive thing. And if you don't know any better and don't know to ask, you'll just assume you're getting covered. But you just have to ask for an owner's policy. It's just a few dollars more, not much. Even on a refi, always get the owner's policy. If it didn't, I think if you can correct me on this, if it didn't change names, I think you can just keep the lender policy or the owner policy, but you just changed the lender policy. I think I remember them saying that at the closing tables. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong, Beth.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
On a refi, I know that we've had to get a title policy again. If we refi to a new lender, that lender wants to get the insurance, and we haven't had to pay again for the owner policy. We did have to pay for the new lender policy. So our original owner policy that we had before still stands. That was the experience. Just double verify that's right.
Let me just say one thing. You're right. If the owner does not change, you don't have to get a new owner policy. If you just, for people, if you have a property and that property changes hands, okay, you now are going to put it into an LLC. Got to get a new policy. You now are going to transfer it. You were one person, you got married, now it's going to be in the name of two people. You'll be insured, but the other person won't be insured unless there's a new policy. Anytime there's a change in ownership, you got to get a new owner's policy. And sometimes I've been in situations where it doesn't seem quite fair, but you got to get a new owner's policy.
Even if the spouse dies?
I think Gary wants the mic. Tom?
So when someone inherits a policy, do you need the new owner's policy, new owner's title policy to be done?
I knew someone was going to ask that question. And I don't think
Wait for the mic.
I don't think that you do, but I would ask the title because the ownership is now in a new person by operation of law, not by a transfer. So I think when there's an inheritance, you don't need to get a new policy because again, it goes, but I would ask a title company the answer to that question.
So a couple of years ago, oh, go ahead.
The one
Rich?
thought, that if you're looking at a lender's policy and you bought your property for $200,000 and the lender said, we're only going to finance at 60%. So now you got a $120,000 policy on your $200,000 property. If you find out that there's a cloud on that title and it's found to be, valid, somebody can get 120 grand, but the 80 you put up front is gone.
But they will pay to represent you up to that amount. So you can get a lot of legal work for 120,000.
So a couple of years ago, we had a title insurance company make a presentation to our group. So just show of hands, how many people would like to see a fresh title company presentation to us? Okay, don't know the count, but it's a good number. Would you like to hear a presentation from a title insurance?
I would.
Okay, but then we'll try to arrange for that.
That'd be great. And don't forget my Facebook. I put it back on here.
When I send out the thank you notice, I'll include your Facebook link.
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Okay. Are there any? Suzanne, did you say before there has never been an issue with fraudulent titles in Bucks County?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your
And
knowledge.
she's been there 16 years.
You're not one of the fraudsters, are you?
No.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to check. Yeah. Who would know? Who would know? Okay. Are there any other questions for our recorder of deeds?
Thank you all for letting me come
Thank
and
you for
speak
coming.
to you.
Let's give
I
Robin a
really
great round of
appreciate
applause.
it.
Thank you.